Everybody, Smith Anderson.
All right. I have 13 minutes, so I'm going to try and get through all of these slides as quickly as possible. For the last 7 years, we've built an influencer marketing platform that allows brands to connect with creators and be a big part of their marketing strategy. We also have built a best-in-class services department, professional services. We service brands and agencies alike to help them execute influencer marketing campaigns. So I'm going to go into a couple of slides here. First, not surprising, influencer marketing, the creator economy is booming. A ton of companies are working in it. A bunch of money is going into it. And depending on what report you read, it could be billions, it could be tens of billions of growth over the past 5 years. And it's just up and to the right. 50 million people now identify as creators. And even more so, Adobe says that about 165 million people work in the creator economy. It's a 120% increase over the past 3 years. They say upwards of 1 billion people by the end of the decade will also identify as creators. We know that this has to be a big part of the way that you're thinking about your business as marketers. We've entered the age of the creators, and a big part of that is because we've democratized the creation of information because of your phones. Everybody has a device in their pocket that allows them to be a creator. And as marketers, we need to take advantage of this. Because we think that at Mavrck, what consumers say about us online is more important than what we say about ourselves. And it's because today's consumers are talking about us. Creators are creating content about us whether we like it or not. And there's only so much we can do to create that messaging. We call this social proof. And as adults and as consumers, we are taking advantage of this the way that we buy everyday products. We see some content on Instagram or TikTok, on our YouTube or a Reel. We jump on Google, we look for reviews, and depending on how tech savvy we are, we may go down some Reddit subreddit threads. But we're consuming content at multiple touch points as we think about the customer journey. And as marketers, we need to be able to impact that as much as we possibly can. Can we think about each one of these touch points as we evolve the customer journey? And the reality is that I said that the creator economy is up and to the right, but it's super messy. And it's because when we're thinking about the strategy of activating creators, there's a bunch of different directions that we can go in. And there's a couple of very polarizing forces at play. Number one is creators want to make more money. That is their number one goal. This is their living. This is how they pay their bills. And the second, as marketers, we want more measurement. And those are really difficult things to reconcile when we think about a cohesive influencer marketing strategy. So I'm going to go through a couple of tips that can help us. Number one, there are two paradigms of social proof. The first is an audience paradigm. We're looking at a creator just based on their reach. How many followers do they have across an individual social platform? And the second is the content paradigm. So we're thinking about the quality of content that can drive conversions for our business. And we want to look at them separately, but together. So we like to use the term yes and. Yes, we'd like to look at those creators that have a really big reach. They're household names. They're creators that your friends, your family, your children follow on social media. And the really interesting thing about those types of creators is those are ad units that we choose to engage in. We are not targeted on Google or on social. We choose to engage the recommendations that those creators bring to the table. The second is a content paradigm. So can we think about the quality of content that allows us to work with probably a much smaller creator at scale to create content that allows us to use it across the entire customer journey that we have and all of our digital properties? We typically look at this as an always-on activation where we're working with a very high volume of creators that allow us to generate tens of thousands of pieces of content that we can use across our entire marketing strategy. So what does this look like when we put it into action? First is we use affiliate links or promo codes to actually drive consumers to your website. The second is we're using that influencer-created content directly on your PDP, on your social, in your ads, on your website that allow us to actually increase conversions. We know that creator content works better than brand-created content. The second is star-based reviews. Often we think about influencers and creators just as content creators in the form of videos or static photos, but the reality is that there are many different types of content that we can be leveraging across our strategy. So have a creator create a static post or a video, drive traffic to your website, use that content on your website, and also have that same creator leave a star-based review on your website. And then lastly, once we get them onto your website, be able to retarget them with more creator content. So we're really looking about that full cycle of the customer journey. Next is using a tool like Link in Bio that allows you to actually look at bottom of the funnel measurement. Are we looking at influencer created content to drive conversions and sales? Sometimes it's very difficult to do that through social media directly because there is one source that gets a lot of credit for the work that we do as marketers as it relates to influencers. And it's, wait a second, I thought I had it there. It's Google. This is what I do often, scrolling through Instagram or TikTok. You find some sort of product that you want to look at later. You bring it up on your phone. It's on your little notes app. Next thing you do is you Google it on your desktop, and they're getting credit for all the work that we've done. So can we overlay organic search traffic with those moments when we're creating content with influencers? Here's a really good case study that we have with the global beauty brand. They used both of those paradigms really well. So they're looking at the content paradigm as well as the audience paradigm, and they created about 2,000 posts over the course of a segment period for 250,000 engagements. They used a lot of micro and nano creators, and the goal was a 3% sales lift in 3 target markets, and we ended up with about 10.2%. The second is that we know that influencer content converts at a higher rate than brand-created content because it's more relatable. Today's consumers are looking for people that look like them that they can relate to. And so here's a really good example of an e-com retail brand that was able to drive thousands of dollars of sales per each individual piece of content. The second is that we think that there's lots of different personas of creators that you need to be leveraging. So when we think about it, it's a spectrum. At the very top, you have the superstar celebrities, sports athletes, the people who are household names that get paid millions of dollars to do what they do for a living, not be a content creator. And then it goes all the way down to a nano creator. These are consumers, these are your employees, these are your friends and family. This is your dental hygienist that has a side hustle as a TikToker. And we're able to think about how we leverage each one of these tiers of influence for a different strategy and incentivize them differently. So here's a fashion brand that we worked with. They have an ambassador program. They've created multiple tiers of activation of their creators across their brand. Across about 60 campaigns, they generated about 40,000 pieces of content. They activated 17,000 different creators across that spectrum of influence, and they were able to garner some really impressive results. I'm happy to share a little bit more about this case study once we get past this. They did this with a framework. So thinking about those different tiers of creators, creating different personas, incentivizing them to do different things based on who they are, right? If we're looking at the top end of the spectrum, we want them to create really high quality content, and we're going to ask them to do that for money. At the bottom, we may incentivize their employees or their customers with a gift card to do the same thing, but the expectations of results are going to vary. And then how we measure that is also very important for us to think that we're aligning the person, the strategy, the incentive with the outcome. And we can help you create that framework. Tip number 3 is prioritizing some of your customers that already have influence. It is expected that about 5% of your existing customers are creators with influence. And the way that we suggest that you find those individuals is put a request link, like one of our customers, Quest Nutrition. This is on their website. They invite their customers to apply to become part of their ambassador program, to identify those folks that already have influence. They know your brand, they love your brand, they're willing to do more for less. We have a electronics brand that we work with who does this really, really well. They have a highly engaged audience of content creators already. And so they put something on their website that allowed them to identify them as ambassadors, incentivize them with gift cards, sweepstakes, contests. They generated about 37,000 posts last year. Tip number 4 is treat creators as a distinct audience segment. The reason that this is important is because not enough marketers are looking at creators as a way to identify audiences. A really good example of that, sorry, let me jump into this first, is the reason that we want to do this is because they're digital native, right? They are consumers of content. They are on the edge of the zeitgeist of new trends. And they are aspiring creators. And a really good example of that is Rush Talk. Rush Talk, if you don't know, every August, a bunch of sororities are looking to recruit new incoming freshmen to be a part of their sororities. What we had seen last year and every year since is that a lot of these brands are identifying these creators before they are actually content creators for a living. And so being able to go and look for some of these emerging creators as part of these trends and being able to be nimble as a marketer to take advantage of these trends early on is going to be helpful because you've identified creators as an audience. And I think I'm probably at my 13 minutes. And that's it. I have two of my colleagues, Ryan and Mason here, who I believe that most of you have met. If not, we're going to be at the pool this afternoon, and really appreciate your time.